Welcome to the Change Revolution podcast with your host, Phil Cooke.
We're talking about branding in this series of podcasts, and one of the things that I want to share with you is that everyone in your organization has to live the brand. I've just come out with my new book, Branding Faith, Why Some Churches and Nonprofits Impact Culture and Others Don't. And in that, we talk about how everyone trickling down needs to understand your brand. I had an interesting experience the other day at Starbucks. I was at the American Airlines terminal at DFW Airport, and I thought I'd jump over to Starbucks for just a minute and get a coffee. And it was funny because I was right behind a little old lady, sweet grandma, and she ordered, I think, a chai tea latte, something that was up on the menu board. It was very simple. It was up on the menu board. Well, the 20-year-old kid behind the cash register was incredibly rude. And he looked at this sweet little old lady and said, "Ma'am, we don't have that drink." And she said, "Well, I think you do. It's on the menu." He said, "Excuse me, I work for the company. I work for Starbucks. I think I would know if we have a drink or not." And finally, at that point, I got fed up, so I stepped up and said, "Hey, buddy, turn around, look at the menu board." And he did. And he saw the drink was obviously there. And he was embarrassed and refused to look at us in the eye again, just huffed and rang up the lady's order. Then he took my order. Well, that wasn't all. I go over to get my drink, and the barista girl that was putting the drink together, I asked for a iced soy latte. So she made the drink, and then she picked up a thing of caramel and started squirting caramel all over the top of my drink. Well, I knew something was up, so I said, excuse me, what are you doing?" And she said, "I'm putting soy in it like you want, okay?" Well, I said, "That's not soy, that's caramel." And she looked at it, caught herself, put it down, grabbed my cup, got a spoon, went over to the trash can and started scooping the caramel off the top of my drink, which was now hard because it was a nice drink. She started scooping it off in a trash can. Well, by the time she was done, I'd lost about a third of my soy latte. But she put the top on it, put the straw in it, and handed it to me. And I said, "You know what? I think we're going to need to go back and start all over. This is not going to work." And so I was so upset by it, I wrote Starbucks. Now, let me tell you this. I'm a huge fan of Starbucks. Howard Schultz created a great company. I've studied him. I've studied his ideals. I've written about it in my book, Branding Faith. It's a great company. But at that moment, no matter how brilliant Howard Schultz was, no matter how many millions of dollars they spent on their advertising, no matter how much they paid their executive team, Starbucks brand came down to that moron at the cash register and that girl behind the coffee machine. That was the brand to me and that sweet little old lady at that moment. So that's an interesting. Now the fact is, Starbucks has huge problem. How do you train thousands and thousands of employees to express your brand? But the fact is, you have to. You have to understand how to express your brand down to the lowest guy. If he's in the mailroom, a receptionist, an usher. If you've got a church or a nonprofit organization or a ministry of some kind, your brand is only as good as the person who comes in contact with your customer, your supporter, your partner, whoever that person happens to be. So I say this, take the time to teach your people to live your brand. Whatever the brand story that surrounds your church or your ministry, your nonprofit organization, your business, whatever it is, make sure that every person there understands it, understands how to express it. And if they deal with the public behind the counter, as a receptionist, as a phone operator, as an usher, as a volunteer, whoever they are, they need to understand that 24/7 they're representing your organization and they're representing the brand. It doesn't matter how much money you spend if the people on the front lines of dealing with the public don't know how to express that brand. Live the brand. Every employee in your organization needs to understand how to live your brand to make it come alive in the eyes of the public.
Join us for more of this conversation at Phil's Change Revolution blog at philcooke.com. That's PHILCOOKE.com. And keep checking this podcast for more up-to-date dispatches from the front lines of media, faith, and culture.